From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Ahmed Ramadan. A study says 7 owners dominate online news in the US. Details and more coming up. Stay tuned. President Donald Trump's former advisor, Steve Bannon, is calling for immigration agents to be near polling stations during this November's midterm elections. Bannon made the remarks on his War Room podcast, repeating claims that undocumented immigrants vote in large numbers. Election officials and courts say there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Bannon holds no official role but remains influential among Trump supporters. Officials say law enforcement near polling sites can intimidate voters. They warn immigration agents may discourage citizens and legal residents from casting ballots. At the same time, the Department of Justice has requested and is suing to get access to voter rolls in several states. Election officials are pushing back, citing privacy and security concerns. Attorney General Pam Bondi has asked Minnesota to turn over its voter rolls as part of demands linked to reducing federal presence from an immigration crackdown in the state. Election officials nationwide say such steps could undermine voter confidence ahead of the midterms. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is calling for a full withdrawal of federal immigration agents from her state. She spoke after President Donald Trump's border advisor Tom Homan announced 700 agents would leave Minnesota. Approximately 2,000 agents are still expected to remain. Omar said the drawdown is not enough. She demanded all ICE and Border Patrol agents leave, calling the operation a terror campaign, and said this occupation has to end. The deployments are part of Operation Metro Surge, a federal immigration crackdown in several U.S. cities. The operation has sparked protests across Minnesota. Civil rights groups say the reduction is only a minor concession, noting that enforcement actions are continuing. The Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, says the move came after public pressure. The Muslim Civil Rights Advocacy Group is calling for investigations into the killings of 2 American citizens in the state by federal agents last month. Trump said the reduction could signal a softer touch, but insisted authorities must remain tough on crime. A group of U.S. citizens and immigrant rights groups have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. They are challenging a suspension of immigrant visa processing for 75 countries. The policy was announced in mid-January by the State Department. Officials said some migrants rely on public benefits at unacceptable rates. The lawsuit calls that claim false. It says the policy is a nationality-based ban on legal immigration. Plaintiffs argue the law requires each case to be judged individually. They say the government cannot impose a blanket restriction. Families in the case include U.S. citizens waiting for spouses and children. Some skilled workers with approved visas are also affected. Lawyers say the move is unlawfully and deeply harmful. They argue it targets people from Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. The administration claims the rule protects U.S. taxpayers. The case now moves through the federal courts. Analysts say its outcome could shape future immigration policy. A small group of corporate owners and wealthy families control a large share of online news audiences in the United States. Media watchdog Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, or FAIR, examined traffic to major U.S. news websites over 12 months. Using industry rankings and web traffic data, the analysis found that more than half of the visits to top U.S. news sites went to outlets controlled by just 7 ownership groups. The study, written by journalist Caitlin Shala, was published in Common Dreams. Over the study period, major news sites received approximately 45.6 billion visits. Nearly 25.5 billion went to outlets owned by the 7 groups. The biggest shares were linked to the Ox-Schalzberger family of the New York Times and the Murdoch family's media empire. Other major owners included Warner Brothers, Discovery, Apollo Global Management, Comcast, Microsoft, and IAC. The report says media concentration has moved from traditional outlets to digital platforms, with large corporations and billionaires continuing to shape the news consumed by millions online. The Washington Post is laying off 300 journalists, nearly one-third of its newsroom, after major financial losses. Executive editor Matt Murray told staff the paper has faced financial challenges for some time, and the cuts were needed to secure its future. Reports say the paper lost approximately $70 million in 2023 and nearly $100 million in 2024. Circulation and digital subscribers have also fallen sharply in recent years. Journalists in bureaus from Kiev to Cairo, Berlin, and New Delhi were affected. Former executive editor Marty Baron called the layoffs the darkest days of one of the world's greatest news organizations. The paper is owned by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who bought it in 2013 for $250 million. Bezos now is worth more than $240 billion. Critics note that he has spent approximately $500 million on a super yacht, $237 million on a Miami properties, and tens of millions on personal and media projects. Some journalists say the contrast has intensified anger over the layoffs. A student resolution at U.S. University is receiving national attention. The student government at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln will vote this week on a bill to divest from companies that send weapons to Israel, a country committing genocide on the Palestinian people. The campus chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine has pushed for divestment for years. The group says the university system holds more than $9 million in investments tied to major defense contractors, including Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and General Dynamics. In 2024, a report shows a university endowment totals approximately $425 million, with possible indirect stakes in defense companies. Leo Terrell, chair of the Justice Department Task Force on Anti-Semitism, has urged students to reject the bill. Student organizers say the resolution targets corporate involvement in war crimes, not Jewish identity or belief. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen and Congressman Don Bacon also criticized the bill, saying Israel is a key ally of the U.S. FBI documents Informant believed Epstein was an Israeli spy. Details coming up next.
My name is Layla. I was an average kid until Zula Inc. broke into my life because my dad discovered time travel. After that, everything changed.
You're the new girl Layla, right?
Whoa! What if I don't fit in?
Abdullah!
Do I hear my name? Welcome to Vancouver, cuz.
Whoa!
You four have been specially chosen to take our project into the next generation.
You can time travel?
Abdullah! No! Abdullah! Where?
Do you really think I don't know why we had to leave Seattle, Mama?
Now here, keep these close. These should never leave your wrist.
This virtual reality game is crazy. You can even eat. This is reality, buddy. We zoomed through a wormhole.
Oh no, my Go Watch! It's gone!
What does this do?
That's Al-Khwarizmi. You know, the father of mathematics. It's because of him we have algorithms.
I will not stop until your legacy, everyone's legacy, lies in ruins. Of course it was you. You little rascals ruined everything!
Your fate will be great. Just don't give up.
Time hoppers.
Welcome back. Newly released Justice Department records say an FBI informant believed convicted child sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein was linked to Israeli intelligence. The document says the confidential source grew convinced Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent. It claims Epstein had close ties to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and may have received intelligence training. According to the file, Epstein's attorney Alan Dershowitz allegedly told the U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta that Epstein worked with U.S. and allied intelligence services. The informant also reported phone calls between Epstein and Dershowitz, followed by alleged contacts from Israeli intelligence. The record notes that the claims came from the informant's observations and references earlier reporting, though details remain unclear. The files are part of millions of pages released last week. They mention several prominent figures linked to Epstein's circle. Epstein died in a New York jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. He had earlier pleaded guilty in Florida in a controversial plea deal widely criticized as too lenient. The Hind Rajab Foundation has filed a criminal complaint in the United States against a former Israeli army sergeant over war crimes in Gaza. The group says the complaint targets Adi Karni, who took part in demolishing civilian infrastructure and religious sites during Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. The foundation says Karni is in the U.S. and was scheduled to speak at Boston University. It argues his presence gives U.S. authorities jurisdiction to open an investigation. According to the filing, Karni's unit was involved in widespread destruction. The complaint also cites statements in which he allegedly denied the presence of civilians while defending attacks on civilian targets. The Hind Rajab Foundation has filed similar complaints in several countries, including Peru, where a criminal investigation is already underway. The group says its goal is to ensure alleged international crimes are investigated wherever legal jurisdiction exists. The Hind Rajab Foundation is a rights group named after a Palestinian child was murdered by Israeli soldiers in Gaza. Israeli soldiers killed at least 18 Palestinians, including women and children, in strikes across Gaza despite a supposed ceasefire between Israel and Hamas that was announced in October. Medical sources say the attacks hit displacement tents, homes, and gatherings of civilians in several areas. Relatives wept as bodies of victims were brought to hospitals. Many of the dead were displaced civilians living in makeshift tents. In Khan Yunis, shelling near Street 5 in Al-Mawasi killed a paramedic and at least 2 others, with more than a dozen wounded. Witnesses say an Israeli helicopter struck a displacement tent. As rescue teams arrived, an Israeli drone targeted the area again. In separate artillery fire in southern Khan Yunis, Israeli soldiers killed 3 people when homes were hit outside zones controlled by Israel. In Gaza City, Israel's shelling struck multiple neighborhoods, killing women, elderly civilians, and a child in tented shelters. More casualties were reported east of Deir al-Balah locality, where a strike hit another tent housing displaced families. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed more than 72,000 Palestinians and injured more than 172,000, mostly women and children. Pakistan observed Kashmir Solidarity Day on Thursday with rallies, seminars, and symbolic human chains across the country. Every year, February 5th is marked to express support for the people of Indian-occupied Kashmir. A 1-minute silence was observed nationwide at 10 a.m. local time to honor those killed in Kashmir. According to the Kashmir Media Service, the region has witnessed killings of 96,483 people and custodial deaths of 7,411 civilians since 1989. In separate messages, Pakistan's President Asif Ali Zardari and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif reaffirmed Pakistan's moral, diplomatic, and political backing for Kashmiris. He called for a resolution of the dispute in line with United Nations Security Council resolutions. They urged the international community to help ensure the right to self-determination through a free and impartial plebiscite. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also announced increased financial support for Kashmiri refugees and a pilot housing project for displaced families. Military leaders issued a joint message expressing solidarity with Kashmiris and calling for concrete international action to address alleged human rights violations. Rallies and human chains were held in Islamabad, Karachi, and at the Kohala Bridge linking Pakistan and Azad Jammu and Kashmir. More than 3,800 Indian nationals were deported from the United States in 2025, according to figures shared in India's upper house of parliament. The government said 3,414 deportations took place through Washington alone by mid-December. Officials say New Delhi is in dialogue with the U.S. to ensure humane treatment of deportees, especially women and children. The government has also raised concerns about the use of restraints during deportation flights. The government says it has issued warnings about fake job brackets and promotes safe migration through its e-migrate portal. South Africa has become the 54th member of the American Export-Import Bank, or Afreximbank, unlocking a new $8 billion financing program. The program is aimed at strengthening the economy and boosting trade across the continent. The bank says the move marks a major milestone as African nations seek closer economic cooperation in a changing global trade environment. Under the new country program, Afreximbank will roll out financial support to expand industrial development, strengthen regional supply chains, and increase intra-African trade and investment. Officials say the initiative aligns with South Africa's economic ambitions and its role as the continent's largest contributor to intra-African trade. It accounted for more than 19% of the total trade of the African continent in 2024. Afreximbank President George Lumbi called the step a decisive move towards uniting Africa around shared economic interests. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says joining the bank reaffirms South Africa's commitment to industrial growth and deeper trade and investment ties across the continent. Scientists have found a faster and cleaner way to recover precious metals from electronic waste. The method uses a powerful electrical current to heat shredded electronics to nearly 3,000 degrees Celsius in an instant. This process, known as flash joule heating, vaporizes valuable metals like gold, copper, and palladium. Researchers say metals recovered from e-waste could be 13 times cheaper than mining from the ground. The new methods is also between 80 and 500 times more energy efficient than traditional furnace techniques. A previous study showed that 1 ton of discarded mobile phones contains high amounts of copper, silver, gold, and palladium. Those grades are considered among the richest in the mining industry. Scientists at Rice University tested the process using shredded circuit boards mixed with carbon. The metals briefly turned to vapor while plastics were carbonized. Additives helped recover up to 80% of some metals. Researchers say urban mining could help meet rising demand for precious metals. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.